Great. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining another Node.js website redesign meeting. Today is like the 28th of July, and our meeting issue in the Node.js repo is 1660. There is a pretty short agenda here, so we will probably have a short meeting. Oh, and I see the first issue is to add you, Thomas, or do you go by Lance? What do you prefer?
I prefer Lance.
Okay, cool. The first issue here is to add Lance to the team. Oh, this is an issue. Let's see.
Would it be easier to just add me to the PR with Road? Is it Rodion or Road?
Yeah, I've been saying Rodion, but I'm not sure. So let me, I'm surprised that I feel like we have a process for this, and if we don't, it should be made more clear. Anyone says, please read contributing guidelines. Yeah, see, we need something that makes this clear, because I mean, not that just creating an issue that Ben did and nominating you is a bad thing. But if we have a process, oh, here. So I'm going to create an issue to make clear how to add someone to the team.
Actually,
so
I sent the link for that process.
Yeah, is it? Let me see what I saw contributing. Yeah, how to be exactly. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you, Manish. So it's I think nice and fine to, especially if you're nominating someone, that's great, to throw up an issue, but we should to actually add someone, and I think that would probably be the best way rather than an issue, is to open up a pull request.
Okay, I can create that.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Manish, link to the spot. It's pretty basic. You're just basically adding yourself in the list alphabetically, and folks who are involved will approve it, and then within 72 hours, without any objections, we would merge that in, and then add you to the team, and so on and so forth. So that would be great if you want to do that, and then link to that issue that Ben had created, issue 1561. So that's, are you familiar with like the closing verbiage in pull requests and stuff, Lance?
The closing?
Yeah, so if you open up a pull request and in the description you say closes :
oh yeah.
So yeah, if you would do that, that would be awesome. And we can manage that. That would be perfect. Cool. And then the other one is adding Rodion, which I hope I'm saying that right. Or let me even see. Yeah, Rodion is their name. Great. I'm gonna merge this, assuming this worked. Yep. Okay, cool. So squashing and merging that one. And then I need to add Rodion to the team as well, I think, if I remember correctly. Looking at the notes here, pull requests. That's once the requirements are met and approved, pull requests can be merged, and a member of the Node.js community committee will add the new person to the Node.js dev team. And I should make these hot links. So much to do. Let's see. I will maybe do this afterwards, because I don't want to take up people's time. But then I just start doing it now. Let's see. What I want to do is just find the Node.js team, the dev team, Node.js dev team, where are the people teams? There it is. Now I can link to that in the README. Sorry, everyone. I'm just going to quickly do this, because if I don't, then I probably won't get to it, and it will just take me a moment. So when you become a collaborator, you can be added to the Node.js dev team, and I will make that a link. And create a PR. Updating. Link to. Cool. Great. So I opened up that PR. I will share it in Zoom since we're just kind of hanging out here. Feel free to just take a quick peek at that and throw a thumb on there. And I will merge that after, I think, 72 hours. So yeah, that's it for our agenda, right? I mean, the only other thing that I think is worth mentioning is, I don't know if anyone's looked at this document that we started. I don't think it was last week. It was maybe the last meeting, but maybe the one before. Looking to document kind of the state of the redesign work, with the thinking being that we will start to bring in folks from other teams, like the current Node.js.org team and the documentation team and the internationalization team, and basically having one document to point people to give them all the context on where we are and what we still need to do, and how we may need to work together with other teams within the Node.js org. So if anybody has any, oh, here comes Ben. If anybody has any stuff to add there, please do so. Hey, which Ben is this? Is this Halverson?
Yeah, this is Halverson.
Hey, how are you? How are you, Ben?
Good.
There you are. Good.
Ben.
Yeah, so we just to get you up to speed, Ben, we were talking for a few minutes at first, and then got the stream going. And basically, our two agenda items are adding people to the team. Lance is going to, who's on the call here, is going to create a PR to add them to themselves to the README. I appreciate the issue that you created, but in the future, if you want to just open up a PR and add them, kind of nominating that works too.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure actually. Cool.
Yeah,
yep.
Not a big deal. And I appreciate you recognizing the work that folks are doing and encouraging them to be officially kind of recognized on the team.
Yeah, thanks for nominating me, Ben. I went ahead and created a PR, Joe.
Excellent. Yep. Excellent. Yeah, so we've got a PR to add Lance. We've got a PR I just opened, just a link to the Node.js dev team. So when someone does merge it in, it's easy to just click on that to add them to the team. And yeah, that's about it. So the only two agenda items that we had were those two team updates. And I was just sharing with Lance and Manish the hackmd file that we started working on, not last meeting, maybe a month ago. I'm not, oh, actually we meet weekly. So maybe yeah,
like 2 weeks ago. 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I've been too busy to really do anything at all lately. So I'm not sure, if there are any updates or anything on the documentation side. I know Tierney had posted something in Slack, but you know of any updates, Ben?
Last week, Michael Dawson joined us, and we went through.
Oh yeah.
And it's actually on YouTube now. So if you want to watch that, you can.
Cool.
But we actually went as we were going through the stream or through the meeting, we were adding notes to that file.
Okay, great, fantastic.
Yep. So there's a section feedback from Michael on, I think it was 7:15 or something like that.
Awesome. I will look at that. Oh, I see. Okay. So I feel like this document, I appreciate that the feedback is in this document, or at least
probably not the right place. But
yeah,
it's also I also documented it in the meeting notes.
Okay, excellent.
So we could copy paste that into from last week's meeting notes. Or
Yeah,
Somewhere
yeah.
else.
If it's in the meeting notes, that's great. I think maybe taking action items or at least issues, bug reports, whatever feature requests out of this would be a good next step.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
we can delete this section.
Yeah,
But
my node core comment in there has been merged, so that can also be removed.
oh, cool. Trying to see which one you're talking about here. So navigation, deciding on which links to keep on top nav bar when we move from old site to new one. So that, yeah, so I struggle with this a little bit. My challenge is that there was design work done a while ago and like information architecture work done a while ago, and I wasn't there, and I don't have any of the like conversational context or the decisional, the reasons why decisions were made, and this was the design we got.
Right.
But I'm inclined to not veer too much away from what was decided, if that makes sense. And I'm thinking specifically about the top navigation bar. My inclination is to not relitigate those sorts of things right now, meaning let's get the design implemented. Let's fill the gaps between the design and the current implementation. Let's make sure current feature parity happens. And then we can kind of go back and look at top navigation and sort of those sorts of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, unless it's a clear, like, oh, this was an oversight, we really shouldn't do this or something, then that's a different story. But I don't want to get into the minutia of design decisions and IA decisions, at least not right now. So I'm kind of browsing the notes here. Yeah, the general questions at the bottom are interesting too, but also are kind of, things we should keep around. But and I mean, I think the table of contents is a good question. Like that's maybe not something we should have right now and just hide it for now and leave it for later.
Yeah, I wonder if that can Manish, is the table of contents prop an optional thing? Can we like turn that on and off by page?
Oh, no, it's actually, we can make it optional.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad just for now. We can kind of make, that's again a decision we can make later on. The less that we kind of add to it and give people more things to kind of quibble about, probably the better,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever used the word quibble, but it's a good word. Cool. Well, okay, so that's interesting. So an action item is to break those into action items or at least issues and such. That would be great. Any other things that we want to talk about, Ben or anyone?
I actually had some.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last week, we had some talks about moving to Netlify, right? Am I audible?
Yeah, I hear you. So you're saying moving to Netlify.
Yes, and I think I have a very strong reason for that.
Why?
So, can I share my screen just for that?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
If you're able to. If you're not, let me know. I can. There you go. Great.
yes. Is it visible?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I created this PR, a draft, which basically uses Gatsby redirects to redirect to the current page. So if I go to /em/get involved, it will basically redirect to the community page. Right. That's what we wanted, I think. Is it correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious, and this might be good to put into an issue, an issue titled, move to Netlify.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and I would like to understand before we make a change like this, like what
Yeah,
would change and what would what are we trying to solve? What might break? Before we make a move like this, I'd like to try and understand it fully, but I don't have the context
yes.
or
I'll show it to you actually.
Okay.
Okay, so this works like it redirects to the correct page, right? But the problem here is that since Gatsby is a static site generator, what it does it basically for /en/get involved, it generates a HTML page
Mhm.
which has a meta equivalent tag of redirecting. Okay. Now, what happens is if I copy this link and write to something like a Facebook sharing debugger, this happens. Like it redirects to the index.html while it should redirect to the community page. Right. So basically we need a server side redirect for this thing, like changing from old slugs to new one.
And
I think,
Netlify has that feature.
yes, Netlify has that feature. You just have to write a underscore redirects file and it will work.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I still think that it would be good if you were able to document that in an issue.
Yes,
And we'd have Miles and other folks chime in. I don't know what features we're getting right now that we would have to either migrate or not have from GCP to Netlify, but that would be an issue. Would be a great place to kind of flesh that out and understand what the pros and cons of the move are. What you're saying makes sense to me. So that's great. I would love to be able to have that feature because that always kind of drives me a little bit crazy. So yeah, that would be cool.
Also, one last thing is like this PR where 1650. Okay. It's where I'm moving from Remark to MDX.
Yep.
So one major change that will be needed is we have to change the HTML tags to JSX tags, basically.
Let me interrupt you one moment, Manish, before we switch gears. Did I hear, Ben, did you have a comment on the move to Netlify before we switch gears?
Yeah. So one thing that we'll end up giving up is our ability to create staging URLs, like as we are today. In Netlify, I don't know, they have the ability to create preview links. That was kind of how we came up with our staging thing from that idea. But I don't know if it's possible for a fork person or somebody that's not a member or contributor to generate. How would they generate a staging URL if they're not a member of the organization or a contributor? Right? Yeah, so that's going to be an issue. Is right now we have staging.nodejs.dev/ and then whatever the PR number is that is generated, and those files are generated and saved into a Google Cloud bucket for each PR that we generate by typing in /preview.
Yeah, do you know, Manish, if that is something we can do at Netlify? I don't know.
I think preview links are supported on Netlify, but the suggestion that I was going to make was use Vercel instead of Netlify. It
Use
has
what?
that Vercel.
Oh, Vercel?
Vercel.
Yeah. It has that preview link by
Yeah,
default.
they all these static site generators have that feature, but it's under the assumption that you're already part of an organization. and it probably uses like branches, not like PR numbers. So then are we going to have to come up with like some kind of convention on PR branch names? So there's a lot of questions I have
Yeah,
about this.
also,
Yeah.
I just wonder, are we going from something that's donated to something that we would need to pay for? And while Vercel is an interesting company and Guillermo is great and everybody, you know, whatever, but you know, I don't know if I don't know if we're getting something for free from them. I know that they reached out to us recently that they would give us something for free if we did some other thing for them, and we decided not to. And so I don't want to relitigate that either. And just want to, I'm kind of mindful of it.
Right.
So the issue that I mentioned is actually only valid for production. Like it doesn't matter, this thing doesn't matter in staging sites. So we can use staging.nodejs.dev with the cloud that we already have and just host nodejs.dev on Netlify. Will that work?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might work.
So I think you know, the point still remains. We should, if you can
Yes.
document
great
this,
idea.
an issue,
Yeah.
that'd be great. We can talk it through there. We might need to kind of you know, demo or try this out somehow before we actually move to it, if we decide to. I would love to like see it working before we approve that sort of a change.
Yeah, I'll document it.
Cool, but thank you, Manish. I appreciate your work on that. Cool. All right, so back to remark situation.
Yeah, so it basically requires you to change HTML tags into JSX tags, especially the self-closing ones, right? Like this.
Okay, and again, what's the reasoning for a move?
The primary reason for the move is, I think, this. Yeah, this copy button.
Okay.
Plus, it gives us more flexibility in like how we are writing the pages. So let's suppose I go to religious page, and here we have a SVG that's currently being imported from the original site, right? So we had a discussion where we could change it into a dynamic chart kind of thing with the data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the reason for the change is right now we're using Markdown. We use MDX. What we're trying to do is like on the /learn page, all that's Markdown files, and we want a button that says copy that will copy the text to the clipboard. So we tried using a Gatsby plugin, but see how it switches to has that little checkbox. We wanted something to indicate, and the plugin that I tried doesn't support that right now. So this is an alternative switch to MDX. So with MDX, we would have JavaScript components in a Markdown file. So so that chart that Manish showed could then be dynamic instead of a static file.
Okay. And what is the amount of effort do we think to change all of the closing tag situations? Like, is that also going to be a problem in, for example, documentation? And is that
that was my primary concern? Like, how much HTML is actually being used in the docs section? That was my question actually. Because it is cumbersome a little, like finding all the empty tags and adding a slash to them.
Yeah, well, in the core docs, I think it's just regular Markdown. I don't think they're using any HTML in the core docs. But we would have to verify that. I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, I'm not either.
On the Markdown for the /learn pages, those are definitely all Markdown because it wouldn't work otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm just
If
trying to
we
look.
will do like incremental addition of the docs, I think it will be easy. But if we decide to move all the docs from there to here directly, then it will be cumbersome.
Just looking at a recent doc file, one question I have is, are HTML comments, that should not be a problem, right?
Mhm.
I would think.
No.
No, in my testing, I didn't run into any issues.
Okay. Yeah, because they use HTML comments for some kind of context for some of the documentation, like when a feature was added, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Those are the only thoughts that I was having. And I'm just still kind of scrolling around looking to see if I see any other HTML, which I don't really, so that's good. Okay. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think we're kind of really at a point where we do need to start bringing in other teams to kind of verify assumptions and things like that. But I also am not sure we're ready to bring in other teams yet. It's sort of this like little gray zone that we're, between phases here.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to get some other folks looking at some of the stuff. But otherwise, that one looks good to me. I'll take a look at it after the meeting and put a thumb on it. Cool.
So I mentioned earlier that my PR for Node Core to support Markdown is merged. So that means we can start adding prompt matter that we can use to those docs. But before we do that, we should probably figure out what we want to add and that we can actually use. So we're not like, creating a bunch of like rework.
Churn. Yeah. Let me ask you, Ben. First of all, is there a docs team?
No.
That's unfortunate.
I mean, it's just Trot and a few others. I think that there's no like official working group docs team, if that's what you're asking. But I think Trot is one of the more active reviewers for docs that I've seen.
Yeah, I wonder if we should have a powwow before we start making any front matter changes, and sit down with Rich and anyone else who's focused on that. I've been wondering for a while if we should have a docs team. And I know that that's a complaint of Node.js, is that the docs really aren't that user friendly, which is a whole nother conversation.
One thing I would love to see soon is a search feature.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the more modern doc websites of just about any site has a built-in search functionality.
Mm-hmm. I wonder. Yeah, I think a docs team would be great, and maybe now I feel like I can ask Michael, who usually has some historical context, Michael Dawson, what if there was one or what, but I feel like we should have one, and at the very least to work through this transition, but also just to think through how to really improve Node docs. I don't know if anybody has an interest in a docs team.
I think it's been tried a few times. I remember watching one of the previous community meetings where you guys talked about this. Maybe either Tierney or Michael Dawson would have some context.
Yeah. I struggle because I always want to be doing things and helping and like, yeah, we should do this, we should have this, and I'm like, I should help make a docs team, but really, do I have time to do that? But I think it makes sense, particularly right now in terms of the redesign work. At the very least, I don't want to say a temporary docs team, but something to really kind of set aside some time to really work through docs and the redesign work.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm kind of just thinking out loud at this point.
Right.
Okay.
So Ben actually mentioned search, right?
What was that?
You mentioned search feature in the site, right?
Yeah. So in the design, there actually is a search box in the top right corner. It just
Yes.
haven't implemented it
So
yet.
how, like, the best way to implement the search in Gatsby is actually using Algolia, right?
Yeah, that's one way. I actually had a kind of working example a while ago,
I thought so.
sometime last year. And the problem that I ran into is since I had a free tier, our JSON is huge and it exceeded the free tier. So I wasn't able to like. parse
Well,
the whole
I mean,
site.
it's something we can talk to some people about. Maybe somebody knows somebody over there and we can try to get an exception for, a
Yeah.
community open source
Yeah.
project.
I think they do have an open source like here, but I'm not like a representative of anything. I'm just an individual, so I
Yeah.
can't like reach out myself.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's maybe we can move this over to Slack in terms of just maybe pinging Rich and Michael and seeing what may have happened in the past, and if there's any appetite for having a docs team at the very least, through this transitional phase. But I really think it would be good to have an actual team that's focused on improving the docs and making them more user friendly and consumable.
So going back to the front matter, like without like talking about like integrating it from the Node core side, what do we want just from like an implementation? Like I think we would want the title. We would want a slug, probably category.
Yeah. That's a good question. Like, I think some of the stuff in the current docs is really specific to sections of the doc. So like we can't add like, when that feature was added per se.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another question. So right now they're doing like the way the docs are generated are through those comments. So like when things were added. So like if something was added in like 14x, there's a comment, like it was added here. But so then if you go to like version 6 or something or previous, that the generation of the version 6 file doesn't display the newer stuff.
Yeah.
Do we need to replicate the same feature?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're still going to continue this version doc thing and
yeah. I mean, I would assume as much.
Yeah.
Because what else would we do? That's.
Well, I mean, we could like have those comments as a historical thing and just have a single version of the docs, and because a lot of it is replicated, like Node core hardly ever removes anything. So what was in version 4 is probably still in version 14.
Yeah, but I wonder if your company has their app on Node 10 and you don't have the resources to migrate or what have you. You probably want to look at the Node 10 docs. You know what I mean? Like if you start looking at 14, you're like, oh, but is this in Node 10? It's not clear to me. I think, and I don't know what other platforms do. I'm not sure, but it seems like this is something that, even if it was an idea that the majority might go along with, I'm sure that there are lots of people who would be like, no. So that's like one of the first things I think we would need to solve is how we parse these documents and are able to spit them out into their individual versions. So that's probably one of the top of the list sort of tasks for this, docs team.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good times. That'll be a fun thing. I wonder how they're doing it now, and what we can leverage there.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we should definitely take this kind of conversation to Slack, although I usually would prefer not to do, rather do things in public, like in an issue. But we may want to just kind of powwow with some folks who have more context and background, and work through what some of these issues might be and whether we should at least form a team to kind of work through them. So good times. But I think docs are important. So I really am in favor of having a team or reviving a team or whatever the case may be. In fact, I'm going to go and look and see if there was ever a docs team in Node.js. Let's see. Documentation. There's a repo and a team responsible for the creation, care, and presentation of the docs. I will share this link with anyone who has interest. So there's 11 people who were on some sort of documentation team. Yeah, and I don't even see Trot in here, so.
Okay.
Interesting.
So the latest post I see there is Google season of docs.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something we can leverage, like.
Maybe next year. It's a seasonal thing. Come on, how do I don't want to do that. I want to actually select this text. Oh, you're great. Node.js. Admin. What issue was it? Now I lost it. Admin issue 310. Yeah, I remember Aguirre creating this. I think this is a seasonal kind of thing, but I'm not sure where to find.
I was just looking in the YouTube chat. There's actually a few people asking questions.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Bring them on over. You want to ask the questions for them?
One person was just asking, he wanted to join the redesign and doc team. So I just pointed him to the page.
Yeah, if you're watching right now and that's your question, which is a great question, essentially this stuff is open source and we encourage you to just start getting involved. Watching these meetings is a great way to sort of get up to speed on what we're working on and what we're thinking about. But definitely take a look at the issues and the PRs, get yourself familiar with the code base, and feel free to join the Slack org. We are operating in the OpenJS Foundation Slack. If you go to OpenJS F for foundation.org/collaborate, you'll find links to the calendar and to how you join Slack and all that stuff. And please feel free to start getting involved. Once you kind of contribute to the effort for some time, then you might get promoted to the team. We'd be happy to have folks be involved and give them more privileges as we do the work. And yeah, so please get involved. We'd be happy to have you. Any other questions? No. Looks like I'm looking at the season of docs right now for 2021, and it looks like it is in process already. So this is like starts in February, really begins in spring essentially in terms of deadlines and stuff, and then goes through the year. So it's definitely something we could look at taking advantage of in 2022, but I think we might have missed it for this year. So, but yeah, we should have that on the radar, and maybe even, yeah, I don't know. Doc's team would be great. What else? Anyone? I'm looking and I see there was a docs repo a long time ago. Oh, this is probably for the documentation team, huh?
Probably.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. And there were a ton of members here then, but it was archived. I think, last commit is 2017. So, I wonder if there's an issue. What's the last closed issue? No, nobody. Decharter this working group just now. Oh, he mentions the CTC repository, which I think was before the TSC.
It sounds like a long time ago.
Yeah, the core technical committee and collaborators. Wow, fun. That's also archived. Yeah, sorry, I'm just kind of looking through this.
We want to talk about the blog.
Sure. Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
Yeah. I guess kind of similar to the docs is the categories. Maybe we can talk about what we want to include. I know we have like news and announcements. I guess those are we're kind of defining those as the same right now. And then right now we're using, I think, Medium, right?
Yeah, but I don't even know if that's really even.
Is it even active?
I don't think so. Medium, Node.js, let's see.
Tip one was recently posted at mentorship.
Oh, yes. No, okay. Yes, it is being used. So there was a recent thing for async hooks,
Okay.
which Michael asked for a tweet for just today, I think. Yeah, interesting. I find Medium to be a problematic platform, so I would love to move off of it, or even at least have a canonical source first and foremost. And then, we could syndicate to Medium and
Right.
dev.to. But, that's something that we would need to talk about with other folks. Yeah. And I feel like, we could have, I feel like tags and labels, make more sense than categories, because I feel like, or maybe I'm conflating the two, but like I could see something having a security tag and a news or announcement tag, like news and announcements to me is so generic. Like, isn't everything on the blog news and announcement?
Yeah.
But yeah, like security and releases, and and then beyond that, we could figure out some sort of labeling or tagging system that makes sense.
Yeah, I think categories versus tags are basically the same thing.
Yeah, as long as it's not like a singular thing. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but like exclusive of other, you can only be in one category. If that's not the case, then great. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine we might even adopt some sort of label system that's directly uses like GitHub repo names or something, so it's very clearly like this is that team's content or area of concern, or some way of getting around that. Yeah. So it's a good question. I mean, I don't even know if people are fully on board on having a blog on the Node.js website. I'm all for it, but I don't, we would need to have that sort of conversation. So
who else would need to be onboarded? I guess maybe a more general question is, do we need consensus from certain people or just community in general?
It's a good question. I mean, I would think at least some support from key players, especially like probably TSC and other leadership in the project, I guess you'd say.
Mhm.
Michael, James, Snell, Rich Trott, Tierney, Miles, I mean, not that they are the gatekeepers, but I think just getting other people approving of a move like that would I think make me feel more comfortable. So yeah, I mean, I feel like we have a lot of open questions, and they're some of them are pretty big questions, and I don't know what the best way to deal with that is. I mean, typically we would want to just create an issue and kind of work through that.
Maybe we should just create issues for each of these.
Yeah. I worry because the website redesign repo has a lot of issues. It's very issue active. We just need to make sure that they maybe we even pin some of them,
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, some of these important ones we should probably be pinning. So
we'd also use the project board more on some of these, and these open questions like how we did with the other stuff.
That's a really good idea. I agree. Yeah, because I feel like almost like some of these issues, some of these things we're talking about are, could be their own repo themselves or their own team, their own, they just feel larger than some of the other things that we're working on here. Anyway, if you can't tell, I get a little overwhelmed by the website redesign for sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's good to throw things up on a project board or something and be like, oh, okay, this isn't as bad as it sometimes feels. So yeah. All right, cool. Well, so yeah, I think we should have a few issues for some of these things. I think it makes sense to maybe even instead of in Slack, we should have these conversations and issues and raise awareness of them in Slack, create an issue for, should we have a docs team, at a minimum to help us integrate docs into the redesign and point people, in Slack to that issue and we'll have the conversation there. All right, good times.
I don't think I have anything else.
Cool. Well, yeah, I saw those two very simple agenda items and was like, oh, this will probably be a short meeting, but they never are. We always have so much to talk through and work on. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions in the YouTube that you saw?
Let me check.
Yeah. No? Okay, good. All right. Well, with that, maybe we should just call a wrap. Talk more on the issues and in Slack. And, thanks everybody for all that you're doing.